Seeing the glowing effulgence of the four Kumaras, the masters of all mystic power, the king and his associates could recognize them as they descended from the sky. Purport for His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The four Kumaras are described herein as Siddheshwaram, which means masters of all mystic power. One who has attained perfection in yoga practice immediately becomes master of the 8 mystic perfections. To become smaller than the smallest, to become lighter than the lightest, to become bigger than the biggest, to achieve anything one desires, to control everything, etc. These four Kumaras, as Siddheshwaras, had achieved all the yogic perfectional achievements, and as such, they could travel in outer space without machines. While they were coming to Maharaj Prithu from other planets, they did not come by airplane, but personally. In other words, these four Kumaras were also spacemen who could travel in space without machines. The residents of the planet, known as Siddhaloka, can travel in outer space from one planet to another without vehicles. However, the special power of the Kumaras mentioned herewith is that whatever place they went to would immediately become sinless. During the reign of Maharaj Prithu, everything on the surface of this globe was sinless. And therefore, the Kumaras decided to see the king. Ordinarily, they do not go to any planet which is sinful. Well, that means we're not going to see them here on our planet. Too much sinful activity here.
Yeah.
Text number 3. Seeing the four Kumaras, Prithu Maharaja was greatly anxious to receive them. Therefore, the king, with all his officers, were very hastily got up, as anxiously as a conditioned soul whose senses are immediately attracted by the modes of material nature. Well, that's really fast. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In Bhagavad Gita 3.27, it says, Pakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasa ahankara vimudatma kataham iti manyate. Every conditioned soul is influenced by a particular mixture of the modes of material nature. As such, the conditioned soul is attracted to certain types of activity which he is forced to perform because he's completely under the influence of material nature. Here, Prithu Maharaja is compared to such a conditioned soul, not because he was a conditioned soul, but because he was so anxious to receive the Kumaras that it was as if without them, he would have lost his life. Wow, that's pretty important. The conditioned soul is attracted by the objects of sense gratification. His eyes are attracted to see beautiful things. His ears are attracted to hear nice music. His nose is attracted to enjoy the aroma of a nice flower. And his tongue is attracted to taste nice food. Similarly, all his other senses, his hands, his legs, his belly, his genitals, his mind, etc., are so susceptible to the attraction of the objects of enjoyment that he cannot restrain himself. Prita Maharaja, in the same way, could not restrain himself from receiving the four commands, who were bright by dint of their spiritual progress. And thus, not only he himself, but also his officers and associates all received the four Kumars. It is said, birds of a feather flock together in this world. Everyone is attracted by a person of the same category. A drunkard is attracted to persons who are also drunkards. Similarly, a saintly person is attracted by other saintly persons. Prithu Maharaja was in the topmost position of spiritual advancement, and as such, he was attracted by the Kumaras, who were of the same category. It is said, therefore, that a man is known by his company. Very important. Tell me who your friends are. I can tell you who you are. So here it says that a man is known by his company. Same thing. Text 4. When the great sages accepted their reception according to the instructions of the Shastras, and finally took their seats offered by the king, influenced by the glories of the sages, immediately bowed down. Thus he worshipped the four Kumaras. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The four Kumaras are Parampara, spiritual masters of the Vaishnava Sampradaya. Out of the four Sampradayas, namely Brahma Sampradaya, Sri Sampradaya, Kumara Sampradaya, and Rudra Sampradaya, the disciplic succession of spiritual masters to disciple, known as the Kumara Sampradaya, is coming down from the four Kumaras. So Prita Maharaja was very respectful to the Sampradaya Acharyas, as it is said by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura, Shakshat Dwaritvena Samasta Sastrai, a spiritual master or the Parampara Acharya should be respected exactly like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Vidivat is significant in this verse. This means that Prithu Maharaja also strictly followed the injunctions of the Shastra in receiving a spiritual master or acharya of the transcendental disciplic succession. Whenever an acharya is seen, one should immediately bow down before him. Prithu Maharaja did this properly. Therefore, the words used here are Parasrayanata Kandara. Out of humility, he bowed down before the Kumaras. Well, very humble personality. Text 5. After this, the king took the water which had washed the lotus feet of the Kumaras and sprinkled it over his hair. By such respectful actions, the king, as an exemplary personality, showed how to receive a spiritually advanced personality. Okay. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Apani Achari Prabhu Jivera Shikaya. It is very well known that whatever Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught in his life as Acharya, he himself practiced. When he was preaching as a devotee, although he was detected by several great personalities to be the incarnation of Krishna, he never agreed to be addressed as an incarnation. Even though one may be an incarnation of Krishna, or especially empowered by him, he should not advertise that he is an incarnation. People will automatically accept the real truth in due course of time. Prithu Maharaja was the ideal Vaishnava king. Therefore, he taught others by his personal behavior how to receive and respect saintly persons like the Kumaras. When a saintly person comes to one's home, it is the Vedic custom first to wash his feet with water and then sprinkle this water over the heads of oneself and one's family. Prithu Maharaja did this, for he was an exemplary teacher of the people in general. Haribol. Text number 6. The four great sages were elder to Lord Shiva. When they were seated on the golden throne, they appeared just like fire blazing on an altar. Maharaja Prithu, out of his great gentleness and respect for them, began to speak with great restraint as follows. Well, great restraint means that he's very carefully choosing his words. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Kumaras are described herein as the elder brothers of Lord Shiva. When the Kumaras were born out of the body of Lord Brahma, they were requested to get married and increase the population. In the beginning of the creation, there was a great need of population. Therefore, Lord Brahma was creating one son after another and ordering them to increase. However, when the Kumaras were requested to do so, they declined. They wanted to remain brahmachari throughout life and be engaged fully in the devotional service of the Lord. The Kumaras are called Naistika Brahmachari, meaning they are never to marry. Because of their refusal to marry, Lord Brahma became so angry that his eyes became reddish. From between his eyes, Lord Shiva, or Rudra, appeared. The mode of anger is consequently known as Rudra. Lord Shiva also has a Sampradaya party known as the Rudra Sampradaya, and they are also known as Vaishnavas. Oh, well, that's good. Lord Shiva is a Vaishnava. Yeah. Okay. King Prithu spoke, my dear great sages, auspiciousness personified. It is very difficult for even the mystic yogis to see you. Indeed, you are very rarely seen. I do not know what kind of pious activity I performed for you to grace me by appearing before me without difficulty. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. When something uncommon happens in one's progressive spiritual life, it should be understood to be incurred by agyata sukriti, or pious activities beyond one's knowledge. To see personally, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or his pure devotee, is not an ordinary achievement incident. When such things happen, they should be understood to be caused by previous pious activity, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:28. Ye samtvantigatam papam jananam punyakarmanam. One who is completely freed from all resultant actions of sinful activities and who is absorbed only in pious activities can engage in devotional service. Although Maharaj Prithu's life was full of pious activities, he was wondering how his audience with the Kumaras happened. He could not imagine what kind of pious activities that he had performed. This is a sign of humility on the part of King Prithu, whose life was so full of pious activities that even Lord Vishnu came to see him and predicted that the Kumaras would also come. This is a sign of humility on the part of King Prithu, whose life was so full of pious activities that even Lord Vishnu came to see him, predicted that the Kumaras would also come. Okay. Text number 8. Any person upon whom the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are pleased can achieve anything which is very rare to obtain in this world, as well as after death. Not only that, but one also receives the favor of the auspicious Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, who accompany the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Okay. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are the bearers of Lord Vishnu, the all auspicious, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 5.38. Pramanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santak sadaiva hridayesu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya guna swarupam govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. The devotees, out of their extreme love for Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, always carry the Lord within their hearts. The Lord is already in the heart of everyone, but the Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas actually perceive and see him always in ecstasy. Therefore, Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are carriers of Vishnu. Wherever they go, Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, or the devotees of Lord Vishnu are all carried. The four Gavaras are Brahmanas, and they visited the place of Maharaj Prithu. Naturally, Lord Vishnu and his devotees were also present. Under the circumstances, the conclusion is that when the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are pleased with a person, Lord Vishnu is also pleased. This is confirmed by Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur in his 8 stanzas on the spiritual master, Yasya Prasada, Bhagavat Prasada. By pleasing the spiritual master, who is both Brahmana and Vaishnava, one becomes the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If the spiritual personality of Godhead is pleased, then one has nothing more to achieve, either in this world or after death. Okay, text number 9. Prithu Maharaja continues, although you're traveling in all planetary systems, people cannot know you, just as they cannot know the super soul, although he is within everyone's heart as the witness of everything. Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva cannot understand the super soul. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the beginning, of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it says, Muyanti Yat Suraya. Great demigods like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Indra, and Chandra are sometimes bewildered trying to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It so happened that when Krishna was present on this planet, Lord Brahma and King Indra also mistook him. And what to speak of great yogis or gyanis who conclude that the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is impersonal. In the same way, great personalities and Vaishnavas, like the four Kumaras, are also invisible to ordinary persons, although they are traveling all over the universe in different planetary systems. When Sanatan Goswami went to see Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he could not be recognized by Chandrasekhara Acharya. The conclusion is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in everyone's heart, and his pure devotees, the Vaishnavas, are also traveling all over the world. But those who are under the modes of material nature cannot understand the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of this cosmic manifestation, or the Vaishnavas. It is said, therefore, that one cannot see the Supreme Personality of Godhead or a Vaishnava uh, with these material eyes. One has to purify his eyes and engage in devotional service to the Lord. Then, gradually, one only, and gradually one can realize who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who is a Vaishnava. Second. Text number 10. A person who is not very rich and is attached to family life becomes highly glorified when saintly persons are present in his home. The master and servants who are engaged in offering the exalted visitors water, a sitting place, and paraphernalia for reception are glorified, and the home itself is also glorified. Well, see, it's a very interesting verse. It says that a person who is not very rich and is attracted to family life becomes highly and attached to family life becomes highly glorified when saintly persons are present in his home. The master and servants who are engaged in offering the exalted visitors water, a sitting place, and paraphernalia for reception are glorified, and the home itself is also glorified. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Materially, if a man is not very rich, he is not glorious. And spiritually, if a man is too attached to family life, he is also not glorious. But saintly persons are quite ready to visit the house of a poor man or a man who is attached to material family life. When this happens, the owner of the house and his servants are glorified because they offer water for washing the feet of a saintly person, sitting places, and other things to receive them. The conclusion is that if a saintly person goes to the house of even an unimportant man, such a person becomes glorious by his blessings. It is therefore the Vedic system that a householder invite a saintly person to his home to receive his blessings. This system is still current in India, and therefore saintly persons, wherever they go, are hosted by the householders. who in turn get an opportunity to receive transcendental knowledge. It is the duty of a sannyasi, therefore, to travel everywhere just to favor the householders who are generally ignorant of the values of spiritual life. It may be argued that all householders are not very rich and that one cannot receive great saintly persons or preachers because they are always accompanied by their disciples. If a householder is to receive a saintly person, he has to receive his entourage also. It is said in the Shastras that Dhruva Maharaja was always accompanied by 60,000 disciples, and that if there was a little discrepancy in their reception, he would be very angry and would sometimes curse the host. The fact is that every householder, regardless of his position or economic condition, can at least receive saintly guests with great devotion and offer them drinking water, for drinking water is available always in India. The custom is that even an ordinary person is offered a glass of water if he suddenly visits and one cannot offer him foodstuff. If, however, there is no water, then one can offer a sitting place, even if it is on a straw mat or straw mats. And if one has no straw mat, he can immediately cleanse the ground and ask the guest to sit there. Supposing that a householder cannot even do that, then with folded hands, he can simply receive the guest saying, "Welcome." And if he cannot do that, then he should feel very sorry for his poor condition and shed tears and simply offer obeisances with holy names to with I'm sorry, and shed tears and simply offer obeisances with his whole family, wife, and children. In this way, he can satisfy any guest, even if the guest is a saintly person or a king. Okay, now we know, even if we're very poor, we can still receive a king or very exalted living entities by offering obeisances with the whole family, wife, and children. In this way, he can satisfy any guest, even if the guest is a saintly person or a king. Text 11. On the contrary, even though full of all opulence and material prosperity, any householder's house where the devotees of the Lord are never allowed to come in and where there is no water for washing their feet is to be considered a tree in which all venomous serpents live. Wow, I don't want to go near that tree. That's the worst tree in the world. In this verse, the word Tirthapadya indicates devotees of Lord Vishnu or Vaishnavas. As far as Brahmanas are concerned, in the previous verse, the mode of reception has been already described. Now, in this verse, special stress is being given to the Vaishnavas. Generally, the sannyasis or those in the renounced order of life, take trouble to enlighten the householders. There are Ekadandi sannyasis and Tridandi sannyasis. The Ekadandi sannyasis are generally followers of Sankaracharya and are known as Mayavadi sannyasis, whereas the Tridandi sannyasis are followers of Vaishnava acharyas, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, and so on. and they take trouble to enlighten the householders. Ekadandi sannyasis are situated on the platform of pure Brahman because they are aware that the spirit soul is different from the body, but they are mainly impersonalists. The Vaishnavas know that the absolute truth is the supreme person and that the Brahmana effulgence is based on the supreme personality of Godhead, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 14:27. Brahmano hi pratistaham. The conclusion is that Tirtha Padya refers to Vaishnavas. In the Bhagavatam 1.13.10, there is also another reference. Tirti Kurvanti Tirtani. Wherever he goes, a Vaishnava immediately makes that place a tirtha, a place of pilgrimage. The Vaishnava sannyasis travel all over the world to make every place a place of pilgrimage by the touch of their lotus feet. It is mentioned here that any house which does not receive a Vaishnava in the manner already explained in the previous verse is to be considered the residential quarters of venomous serpents. It is said that around the sandalwood tree, which is a very valuable tree, there is a venomous serpent. Sandalwood is very cold, and venomous serpents, because of their poisonous teeth, are always very warm, and they take shelter of the sandalwood trees to become cooler. Similarly, there are many rich men who keep watchdogs or doormen and put up signs that say, "Do not enter. Trespassers not allowed. Beware of the dog," etc. Sometimes in Western countries, a trespasser is shot, and there is no crime in such shooting. This is the position of demoniac householders, and such houses are considered to be the residential quarters of venomous snakes. The members of such families are no better than snakes because snakes are very envious, and when they envy, and when they envy, and when that envy is directed to the saintly persons, their position becomes more dangerous. It is said by Chanakya Pandita that there are two envious living entities, the snake and the envious man. The envious man is more dangerous than a snake because a snake can be subdued by charming mantras or by some herbs. But an envious person cannot be pacified by any means. Oh man, that's so terrible. Gotta stay away from envious men. Maharaj Prithu offered his welcome to the four Kumaras, addressing them as the best of the Brahmins. He welcomed them, saying, "From the beginning of your birth, you strictly observed the vows of celibacy. And although you are experienced in the path of liberation, you are keeping yourselves just like small children." Yes, the uh, Kumaras refused to get older. They always wanted to remain young boys. They didn't want to have children. They didn't want to have responsibility of family or anything like that. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The specific importance of the Kumaras is that they were brahmacharis, living the life of celibacy from birth. They kept themselves as small children, about 4 or 5 years old, because by growing into youth, one's senses sometimes become disturbed, and celibacy becomes difficult. The Kumaras, therefore, purposefully remain children because in a child's life, the senses are never disturbed by sex. This is the significance of the life of the Kumaras. And as such, Maharaj Prithu addressed them as the best of the Brahmanas. Not only were the Kumaras born of the best Brahmana, Lord Brahma, but they are addressed herein as Dvija Shrestaha, the best of the Brahmanas, on account of their being Vaishnavas also. As we have already explained, they have their sampradaya, disciplic succession, and even to date, the sampradaya is being maintained and is known as the Nimbarka sampradaya. Out of the four sampradayas of the Vaishnava Acharyas, the Nimbarka sampradaya is one. Maharaj Prithu specifically appreciated the position of the Kumaras because they maintained the brahmacharya vow from the very beginning of their birth. Maharaj Prithu, however, expressed his great appreciation of Vaishnavism by addressing the Kumaras as Vaishnava Shrestaha. In other words, everyone should offer respect to a Vaishnava without considering his source of birth. Vaishnave Jati Buddhi. No one should consider a Vaishnava in terms of birth. The Vaishnava is always the best of the Brahmanas. And as such, one should offer all respects to a Vaishnava, not only as Brahmana, but as the best of the Brahmanas. Text 13. Prithu Maharaj inquired from the sages about persons entangled in this dangerous material existence because of their previous actions. Could such persons, whose only aim is sense gratification, be blessed with any good fortune? That's a very good question. Prithu Maharaj inquired from the sages. Okay. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Prithu did not ask the Kumaras about their good fortune, for the Kumaras are always auspicious by dint of their life in celibacy. Since they are always engaged on a path of liberation, there is no question of ill fortune. In other words, Brahmanas and Vaishnavas who are strictly following the path of spiritual advancement are always fortunate. The question was asked by Prithu Maharaj for his own sake. Since he was in the position of a grihastha and in charge of the royal authority, kings are not only grihasthas who are generally absorbed in sense gratification, but are sometimes employed to kill animals in hunting because they have to practice the killing art. Otherwise, it is very difficult for them to fight their enemies. Such things are not auspicious. 4 kinds of sinful activities: associating with women for illicit sex, eating meat, intoxication, and gambling are allowed for the Kshatriyas. For political reasons, sometimes they have to take to these sinful activities. Kshatriyas do not refrain from gambling. One vivid example is the Pandavas. When the Pandavas were challenged by the opposite party, Duryodhana, to gamble and risk their kingdom, they could not refrain. And by that gambling, they lost their kingdom and their wife was insulted. Similarly, the Kshatriyas cannot refrain from fighting if challenged by the opposite party. Therefore, Prithu Maharaj, taking consideration of all these facts, inquired whether there is any auspicious path. Grihastha life is inauspicious because Grihastha means consciousness for sense gratification. And as soon as there is sense gratification, one's position is always full of dangers. This material world is said to be padam padam yat vipadam na jisam. dangerous in every step. Bhagavatam 10:14-58. Everyone in this material world is struggling hard for sense gratification. Clearly, all these points, clearing all these points, Maharaj Prithu inquired from the four Kumaras about the fallen conditioned souls who are rotting in this material world due to their past bad or inauspicious activities. Is there any possibility for their auspicious spiritual life? In this verse, the word Indriyartha Vedinam is very significant. It indicates persons whose only aim is to satisfy the senses. They are also described as patitanam, or fallen. Only one who stops all activities for sense gratification is considered to be elevated. Another significant word is swakarmabhi. One becomes fallen by dint of his own past activities. Everyone is responsible for his fallen condition because of his own activities. When activities are changed to devotional service, one's auspicious life begins. Text 14. Prithu Maharaj continued, my dear sirs, there is no need to ask about your good and bad fortune because you are always absorbed in spiritual bliss. The mental concoction of the auspicious and inauspicious does not exist in you. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya 4.176, it is said, Dvaita Bhadra Bhadra Jnana Sabha Manodharma E Bala E Manda E Sabha Brahma. In this material world, the auspicious and inauspicious are simply mental concoctions because such things exist only due to association with the material world. This is called illusion or Atma Maya. We think ourselves created by material nature exactly as we think ourselves experiencing so many things in a dream. The spirit soul, however, is always transcendental. There is no question of becoming materially covered. This covering is simply something like a hallucination or a dream. In Bhagavad Gita 2.62, it is also said, Sangat Sanjayate Kama. Simply by association, we create artificial material necessities. Dahayato Vishayam Pumsa Sangat Tesu Prajayate. When we forget our real constitutional position and wish to enjoy the material resources, our material desires manifest and we associate with varieties of material enjoyment. As soon as the concoctions of material enjoyment are there, because of our association, we create a sort of lust or eagerness to enjoy them. And when that false enjoyment does not actually take, one second. Oh, one second. As soon as the concoctions of material enjoyment are there, because of our association, we create a sort of lust or eagerness to enjoy them. And when that false enjoyment does not actually make us happy, we create another illusion known as anger. And by the manifestation of anger, the illusion becomes stronger. When we are illusioned in this way, forgetfulness of our relationship with Krishna follows. And by thus losing Krishna consciousness, our real intelligence is defeated. In this way, we become entangled in this material world. In Bhagavad Gita 2.63, it is said, Kudahat bhavati samaha, samahat smriti vibrama, Ritipam Sat Hudina, so Hudina Sat Panasyati. By material association, we lose our spiritual consciousness. Consequently, there is the question of auspicious and inauspicious. But those who are Atmarama or self realized have transcended such questions. The Atmaramas or self realized persons, gradually making further progress in spiritual bliss, come to the platform of association with the Supreme Personality of God. That is the perfection of life. In the beginning, the Kumaras were self realized impersonalists, but gradually they became attracted to the personal pastimes of the Supreme Lord. The conclusion is that for those who are always engaged in the devotional service of the uh, personality of Godhead, the duality of the auspicious and inauspicious does not arise. Peter Maharaja is therefore asking about auspiciousness, not for the sake of the Kumaras, but for his own sake. Text 15. I am completely assured that personalities like you are the only friends for persons who are blazing in the fire of material existence. I therefore ask you how in this material world we can very soon achieve the ultimate goal of life. Very good question. That we should ask that question ourselves. When saintly persons go from door to door to see those who are too much materially engaged, it is to be understood that they do not go to ask anything for their personal benefit. It is a fact that saintly persons go to materialists just to give real information of the auspicious. Maharaja Pritha was assured of this fact. Therefore, instead of wasting time by asking the Kumaras about their welfare, he preferred to inquire from them whether he could soon be relieved from the dangerous position of material existence. This was not, however, a question personally for Pritha Maharaj, or Maharaja. It was raised to teach the common man that whenever one meets a great saintly person, one should immediately surrender unto him and inquire about relief from the material pains of existence. Therefore, Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Samsara Vishanale Divanisi Hiya Jwale Sudaite Na Kainu Upaya. We are always suffering from material pangs and our hearts are burning, but we cannot find any way out of it. The materialistic person can only be called a tapasvi, which means someone who is always suffering from material pain. One can get rid of all these material pains only when he takes shelter of the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. This is also explained by Narottam Das Thakur. Golokera Premadana Harinama Sankirtana Rati na Janmila Kinetaya. Narottam Das Thakur regretted that he did not pursue his attraction for the transcendental vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra. The conclusion is that all persons and all material in this material world are suffering from material pains, and if one wants to get rid of them, he must associate with saintly persons, pure devotees of the Lord, and chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That is the only auspicious way for materialistic persons. Haribol. Well, this is good information. Text 16. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always anxious to elevate the living entities who are his parts and parcels. And for their special benefit, the Lord travels all over the world in the form of self-realized persons like you, like the Kumaras. There are different kinds of transcendentalists, namely the Gyanis or impersonalists, the mystic yogis, and of course, all the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kumaras, however, were both yogis and jnanis, and finally bhaktas later on. In the beginning, they were impersonalists, but later they developed devotional activities. Therefore, they are the best of the transcendentalists. The devotees are representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to elevate the conditioned souls to their original consciousness, they travel all over the universes to enlighten the conditioned souls about Krishna consciousness. The best process are the best devotees are Atmavidvat, or those who have fully realized the Supreme Soul. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Paramatma, is sitting within everyone's heart, trying to elevate everyone to the platform of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, he is called Atma Bhavana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always trying to give the individual soul the intelligence to understand about himself, meaning the Lord. He is always with the individual as a friend, sitting by the side of a friend, and he gives facilities to all living entities according to their desires. The word Atmavatam is significant in this verse. There are three different kinds of devotees, namely Kanista Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The neophyte, the preacher, and the Mahabhagavata were the highly advanced devotee. The highly advanced devotee is one who knows the conclusion of the Vedas in full knowledge. Thus, he becomes a devotee. Indeed, not only is he convinced himself, but he can convince others on the strength of Vedic evidence. The advanced devotee can also see all other living entities as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord without discrimination. The Madhyama Adhikari, or preacher, is also well versed in the Shastras and can convince others also, but he discriminates between the favorable and the unfavorable. In other words, the Madhyama Adhikari does not care for the demoniac living entities, and the neophyte Kanista Adhikari does not know much about Shastra, but has full faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kumaras, however, were Mahabhagavatas because they're scrutinizingly studying the absolute truth, because after scrutinizingly studying the absolute truth, they became devotees. In other words, they were in full knowledge of the Vedic conclusion. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed by the Lord that there are many devotees, but a devotee who is fully conversant in the Vedic conclusion is very dear to him, meaning Krishna. Everyone is trying to elevate himself to the highest position according to his mentality. The karmis, who have bodily concept of life, try to enjoy sense gratification to the utmost. The Jnani's idea of the highest position is merging into the effulgence of the Lord. But a devotee's highest position is in preaching all over the world the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the devotees are actually the representatives of the Supreme Lord, and as such, they travel all over the world directly as Narayana because they carry Narayana within their hearts and preach his glories. The representative of Narayana is as good as Narayana, but he is not to conclude, like the Mayavadis, that he has become Narayana. Generally, a sannyasi is addressed as Narayana by the Mayavadis. Their idea is that simply by taking sannyasa, one becomes equal to Narayana or becomes Narayana himself. The Vaishnava conclusion is different, as stated by Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura. Shakshad Dvaritvena Samasta Sastrer Uktas Tata Bhavyata Eva Sadbihi Kinto Prabhur Ya Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Sri Charanara Vrindam. According to the Vaishnava philosophy, a devotee in a good as Narayana. No, a devotee is as good as Narayana, not by becoming Narayana, but by becoming the most confidential servant of Narayana. Such great personalities act as spiritual masters for the benefit of the people in general. And as such, a spiritual master who is preaching the glories of Narayana should be accepted as Narayana and be given all respects due to him. Haribol. All right, well, we'll read text 17 and stop. The great sage Maitreya continued. Thus, Sanat Kumara, the best of the celebrates, after hearing the speech of Prita Maharaj, which was meaningful, appropriate, full of precise words, and very sweet to hear, smiled with full satisfaction and began to speak as follows. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prita Maharaj's talks before the Kumaras were very laudable, meaning worthy of being glorified, because of so many qualifications. A speech should be composed of selected words, very sweet to hear and appropriate to the situation. Such speech is called meaningful. All these good qualifications are present in Prita Maharaj's speech because he is a perfect devotee. It is said, Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavat Akinchana Saravar Gunais Tatra Samasate Sura. For one who has unflinching devotional faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is engaged in his service, all good qualities become manifest in his person. Bhagavatam 5:18-12. Thus the Kumaras were very much pleased, and Sanat Kumar began to speak as follows. Okay, we'll stop right there and continue later. Are there any questions? So our takeaway today is the following. For one, who has unflinching devotional faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is engaged in his service, all good qualities become manifest in his person. Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12. Service. Thus, the Kumaras were very much pleased, and Sanat Kumara began to speak as follows. So, this verse, Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavat Yakinshana Sarvar Gunas Tatra Samasate Sura. For one who has unflinching devotional service in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is engaged in the service, all good qualities become manifest in his person. Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12. So that's a very important verse, and that is our takeaway today. For one who has unflinching devotional faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is engaged in his service, all good qualities become manifest in his person. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you, my dear devotees. And today we should meditate on yes, yasti bhakti bhagavat akinchana sarvar gunais tatra samasate sura. For one who has unflinching devotional faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is engaged in his service, all good qualities become manifest in his person. Haribol. Thank you very much. And please chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And also, we should have unflinching devotional faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and be engaged in his service. Then all good qualities become manifest in the person of the devotee. Haribol. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Are there any questions or comments? Any questions or comments?
Maharaj, what is the meaning of unflinching devotional services, that devotional faith in? Because different people are in different level, materialistic people as well as the devotees and all. Like, how can we?
When it's unflinching, there's no hesitation. One wholeheartedly engages in devotional service without any hesitation or doubt or fear. So one has no more doubts, no fear, no hesitation. They wholeheartedly engage in devotional service. So that is unalloyed devotional service. An alloy is a mixture of what you would call um, um, different metals. An unalloyed uh, uh, alloy, it means that it's not a mixture, it's pure. Right? So an unalloyed devotee is one who is purely a devotee with not any mixture of other, let's say, uh, purposes in life. Their only purpose is to please Lord Krishna. Therefore, they're unalloyed devotees. And they're rare. To be an unalloyed devotee is very rare. That means you have no other preoccupation than pleasing Krishna. Everything you do is for the pleasure of the Lord. Then you are an unalloyed devotee. Okay, well, we'll stop right there. Thank you very much. And our takeaway today is the verse Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavat Yakinchana Sarvir Gunais Tatra Samasate Sura. Translation. For one who has unflinching devotional faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is engaged in his service, all good qualities become manifest in his person. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 18th chapter, 12th verse. So we should meditate on this verse. For one who has unflinching devotional faith, that means you have no doubts that every day you're going to be engaged in devotional service right up to the moment of death. For one who has unflinching devotional faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is engaged in his service, all good qualities become manifest in his person. So if we become unalloyed devotees, meaning not have any mixed motives, our only motive is to please the Lord, then we are an unalloyed devotee. And we perform devotional service right up to the moment of death. And that means that all our good qualities are manifest and right up to the moment of death. Haribol. All glories to Prabhupada. That's our takeaway today for one who is unflinching devotional faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is engaged in his service. It's not enough just to have devotional faith, but one has to be also engaged practically in the service of the Lord. All good qualities become manifest in his person. So you don't have to work to have one quality after another. All good qualities are manifest in a person who is engaged in the service of in the devotional service of the Lord. You don't have to do anything else. Everything happens naturally due to being always engaged in the service of the Lord. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Please chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And you simply engage in devotional service without any hiatus, meaning without stopping or without taking a vacation. Therefore, for one who has unflinching devotional faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is engaged in this service, all good qualities become manifest in his person. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to say, well, now I'll develop this quality, and then I'll develop that quality, and then I'll develop this other quality. No, they'll all happen naturally because of the continued devotional service without any material motive. Therefore, all good qualities become manifest in his person just by dint of constant devotional service and association with genuine devotees. Haribol. Thank you very much. That is our takeaway today. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.